So this talk is about the future that is here now. So MYOB, for anyone that doesn't know, online accounting software, we've been around for 30 years. We were around before the internet, and we've been heavily disrupted by the market, by technology, by new competition coming on board as well. And so we've done quite a bit of research in terms of how business is changing, how technology is affecting that business, and what we can do moving forward, looking at some of the trends that we'll see. So hopefully today will challenge your guys' thinking, and it may not answer questions, but hopefully raise some questions as well. We don't know what is going to happen. Things are changing so quickly. But hopefully we can try to navigate it as much as we can. So first of all, look, business has changed. That's not new. I think what is new is the pace at which it is changing. So if we look at, I just Googled some images, what businesses look like in the past, very siloed. You're in your cubicle, you're working alone, and you go to work, do some work, you go home. Now it's a lot more open, a lot more collaboration in the workplace, and it's a case of how does the business as a whole work together than everyone having individual tasks or responsibilities and going forward. Also, in terms of environments that people want to work in, this seems a lot more appealing than what it used to be in the past. And even the tech itself, the size of the screens are huge compared to what they are now. But given that change, it's difficult to always adapt to it. But that is the key skill that people need. So this quote from Charles Darwin sums it up perfectly. It's not the most strongest or the most intelligent, but the most adaptable of species that will survive. But it's in a case of how do you thrive, not just survive. And if I look at MYOB, we partner with 40,000 accountants and bookkeepers across Australia and New Zealand. You could be the best accountant in the 90s or the 2000s. Doesn't mean you're going to be the best accountant now or in the future. If you do not adapt to the environment that we're now in and the technology coming on board. And so in terms of a key skill that everyone needs, doesn't matter what role, what career path, what stage of life you're at, if you can't adapt, will make it a lot more difficult. Whether how good you are at whatever career or field you're in. But estimating that change is very difficult with regards to how you adapt to it. And Bill Gates summed it up. We frequently overestimate the change in the next 2 years and underestimate the amount in the next 10. So we think about change just in the next 1 or 2 years and we overthink it, we overestimate it. But we don't think further afield and we underestimate that. But getting that balance right is very difficult. But there's two sides that you can be on. Do we get excited about the potential to reduce tasks, or do we fear the automation? Do we embrace the technology or dismiss it, as the CEO of Microsoft did in terms of the iPhone? But for you guys, most important is that middle part. Your roles that you're all studying for, preparing for, will continue to change. Any role that I'm in now will change. I need to be excited and I need to upskill. If I fear it, then I could be left behind. And that is when then you start feeling free in the automation or you start dismissing it. But if you can get this right, then the others are a lot easier to adapt to accept. And we talk about lifelong learners. It's never been truer. No course will prepare you for 20 jobs for 5, 10 different industries. But as you continue to develop, you continue to upskill, then anything that comes your way, you'll be able to handle. And how you transfer them skills are obviously going to be very important. At MYB, so we're very optimistic about the future of businesses, of how we can embrace technology, of our own industry. Accountants usually are one of the first ones when people talk about automation and people losing their jobs. But given that we partner with 40,000 accountants and bookkeepers, if they go, then a big part of our business goes. And our software is not there to replace them, it's to help them. And if we then come back to, in terms of the technology side of things, how do we embrace that? How do we really use that? So there's a couple of key technology trends that I'll look at, but also people, because it's not all about the technology. So firstly, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Again, we know that computer power is really accelerating. Again, this slide by Apple really shows that. So in 2010, the iPhone 4, 100 times faster than the Mac in 1984. A few years ago, they released the AirPods, tiny devices that are more powerful than the original iPhone. Who knows what 2029 will look like? The hardware is getting smaller, but the software inside is computing more power. How do we utilize that? How do we take advantage of that? But as I said at the beginning, comes on the other side. Do we fear the robots? And could a robot do your job? So there's a bit of research by Alpha Beta, an Australian econometrics company that was released about a year ago, where they looked at hundreds of jobs and functions. But why we use this research in particular is because they went deeper and looked at thousands of different tasks each job does to work out how much can be automated, how much can a robot do. So you can just go to the website and type in various different job titles. If you look at a welder, not so good news. According to this research, and it's important to note out this research, 76% of what a welder does can be automated. 3 out of 4 tasks a robot could do. If I was in that profession, I'd think about where else can I adapt my skills to. If we look at an accountant, 29%. Now there is conflicting information out there that says 80-90% of what an accountant does can be automated. According to this research, that's not true. Now, whatever side you're on, whatever you choose to believe, 100% the role is changing. Like most roles out there, if not all of them. However, what this highlights is that there's still a lot of human element within what an accountant does. And our software does that 29%, but the other 70-odd% is real value that a human can provide. At MYB, the majority of our staff are software developers. Only 17% of what a software developer does can be automated. It's not how many lines of code they write, it's what problems they solve writing code and languages. We have 50 products or services in the market. No one that we hire potentially, especially in junior positions, are going to know all the languages that are out there. But it's more important, what problems can they solve with the languages that they know. Moving on to data and the Internet of Things. So we're looking at computer power, artificial intelligence, machine learning, producing vast amounts of information and data. How do we utilize that? And we know now anything that can be connected to the internet is connected to the internet, from not just in the business sense, but smartphones, wearable technology, smart fridges, sporting equipment, all producing information. By 2025, they predict there will be 75 billion devices connected to the internet. How do we utilize all that information, especially in the business world? Alec Ross, the former innovation advisor to Hillary Clinton, said that data is the raw material of the information age, just like iron was for industrial, land for agricultural. He goes on to say, who has access to that data will have economic and political power. But in the business world, a business needs to be data-driven, needs to work out what information is it producing and how do they utilize that. That is also where an accountant can come in for a small, medium enterprise, because they may not know how to interpret that information, especially in terms of the financials. So an accountant can then go in, look at it, use artificial intelligence where applicable to provide those insights and recommendations to the business to say, this is where you can spend more, this is where you can save more, this is where potentially you should look to achieve your goals or whatever the aims are of the business. But as I said before, people and the nature of work is an important trend that we need to consider in all of this, because it's not all about the technology nor the design. We talked about earlier in terms of how business has changed. This is Google. They make movies about their office. If it was all about the technology, why would they do that? Why would they offer sleep pods, exercise rooms, different meeting rooms, food and drink to their staff? It's to attract good staff, it's to keep good staff, but also to keep you there either a little bit longer and or more productive. It's not a prison, it's not a trap, but if you need a nap in the middle of the day, then go and have one, because in all likelihood you will come back fresh and more productive. And that is why companies invest either in their environment or flexible working options or whatever the needs of their staff are. Creating that culture, that environment, so that they can get the most out of their staff. Another thing to consider, and especially you guys when you go into the workplace, is that for now you have the most generations as you've ever had before. Your builders, your baby boomers, Gen Z, Gen Y, in the middle there, Gen X. Now Gen Alpha will come through very quickly. How do companies manage all that talent? Different generations, different experience, different skills, different backgrounds, to create an inclusive culture, because they want the diversity. Many of you guys will go into the workplace and actually manage people that are senior to you. How do you handle that? It's something that you will have to think about, especially those that have aspirations to become leaders and managers. So on both sides, companies and employers need to think about the people that they need to win, identifying the talent and who they are, and how you're going to keep them engaged. And very important questions for you to ask at an interview stage. You're going to be working for so many years, you need to think about, is that company right for you, not just if you are right for them. And it is a two-way process. So what I want to leave you with today is a few points in terms of being adaptable and embracing change. It's a lot easier for young people given the environments that you're studying and growing up in, but continue to do so. Be curious in general, but in particular given we're a tech company about technology and how you can find new ways to use it or to do stuff. Really being creative and innovative and curious about that. We talked about being a lifelong learner, but also a teacher. Those of you that were in the session earlier, how do you share everything that's inside of you guys? Because businesses want to know that. So as well as learning, being a teacher as well. And lastly, resilience, an important skill to have. But you will fail, but how do you fail forward and move on quickly from that? Learn from that. We failed as a business in terms of not being quick enough to the market with regards to online products. We had them, but we didn't get it out the door quick enough. So that horse bolted. We can only try to do it better. Luckily, I think we learnt quickly enough to then still continue being the successful business that we are now. But it doesn't always work out that way, as we have seen with other organisations. And that's it from me. So now I open up to you guys for any questions, comments, thoughts that you may have on what you've heard today.